Welcome everyone. I'm standing because we have roll and release as our masterclass for our Wednesday evening classes for the month of April. So here we are. Bring your ball with you. Bring your roll and release ball with you. And if you've got some blocks, bring your blocks in as well. So what I would like to do before we start our practice is to release through the soles of the feet. And then I like to, in this series, work from the feet up to basically to the head. Okay, so today we'll probably get to maybe quads and hamstrings, but we're going to start feet and calves and then progress up. And then each week we're going to make our way slowly up towards the top. And then I might throw in a few little bonus poses and practices here and there. So, shall we start? And as I said, you can stay standing with me with your ball. And I'm pretty sure, oh, good evening everyone. Awesome, I can see Seppi and I can see Luba. Welcome to Denny. Still like 29 degrees, stinking hot. Bring the ball underneath the sole of your foot. Won't matter if it's left or right. What we want to do here is make progress from the base of the big toe. We're going to come all the way over to the little toe. We're going to then meander our way down the outer edge of the foot, come across to the arch and then down into the heel. Okay. This is a common release that we do, particularly in Pilates, but I stole it from my my roll method teacher training. Move to, let's say, the middle of the foot and know that you can curl your toes over the ball here. What I guess, are the cues I can give you in terms of my style of fascial release is that this is very slow. It doesn't work on force and it doesn't work on friction. Okay, so it doesn't work on speed. So you'll see that we're sitting here and we're holding it and we're not rushing through this. We're giving the muscles an opportunity to release as a result of hydrating the fascia. And I'll explain that a little bit later on. Come to the little toe. So as I said, we're progressing from big toe to little toe. We're moving our way across the foot. The idea behind the theory behind the release of the foot is that start to move down to that outer edge of the foot. You can let your foot go on a bit of a slope, as you'll see mine is. The idea of releasing through the sole of the foot, the fascial layers of the foot, is that realistically all areas that you release using this fascial technique will impact on the whole body system. Come to the arch of the foot, let your whole foot curl over. And if you need more weight, then just let your body weight sort of sit into it slightly more. Okay, so what is fascia? Fascia is a web-like structure. I always think of it like a cobweb or a spider's web, in that it's sort of really intricate. Some people will describe it a little bit like a sweater, in that when you pull one end of it, it will start to unravel all of the sweater. Okay, the other analogy that I sometimes hear is that fascia is like a body glove on inside your inside your skin. So you'd have your skin and your fat layer, and then you've got this body glove which encases the rest of the body. Okay, come down towards your heel for me now. And that it's all very much interconnected. So when you release one area, it could have impact or effect on other parts of the body, e.g. the foot, often because it's the baseline of the body. It can release all the way up what we call the back line. So there's all this terminology that goes with fascial, but this is one of them, what we call the back line, or back sling, sometimes called, depending on where you've been trained. And then that can sort of run up the head and into necks and shoulders kind of effects, and can actually give people some relief from headaches simply by releasing through their foot. Their foot can be really holding on to the fascia could be really quite tight, and therefore it's impacting on all of the back system of the body. Sometimes what I do is a little test, like a reference point or a benchmark. So what we'll do this when we come off this right foot, just to sort of say, you know, how are we going with all this? So bring your left foot back onto the floor solidly. Let your right foot, I'm saying right because I've got the bottom of my right foot, but whatever foot has the ball, and bring it onto your mat or onto the floor, and just sense, how does my left feel versus my right? Is there any difference? If there isn't, that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but do they feel any difference whatsoever? Okay, come over onto the other foot. Let's do it again. Some people can describe when they have released both of their feet, they can describe it like, wow, I actually feel like I can feel the surface underneath me now. Like I actually feel like I'm grounded on the floor, on the mat or whatever. I want to actually feel like I'm really making contact with that surface. Come across to, we'll move on slowly. And rightly so, because that's pretty much what is happening. We're releasing the fascia so that it can soften its hold or its grip on the musculature, the muscle. And yeah, it's quite a new. If we talk about age, it's quite a new age kind of thing. Doing fascial release. Sometimes so this is what one would call self fascial release because we're doing it by ourselves. However, therapists, properly trained therapists, would do it on me on a client kind of thing. Come out to that little toe. But they spent years researching under the best microscopes now, as we get better with our technology, to actually look and see what this thing is. This basically it was called a thing until someone decided to call it fascia. But could come to the outer edge of the little toe. It can give great relief to many, many, many people. I always remember a client that I had who, she was a school teacher and she used to write on the board a lot with her right hand. And she said, look, I've got to, at the end of term, I get to the stage where I literally can't get my arm above my shoulder because it's just, it's like it's stuck. I can't write up here onto the electronic whiteboard. And I gave her some fascial release with the ball on the back of her shoulder, and she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, how is that? How can I get my arm up there now? Into that arch, because it was holding on. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't have to be, I believe, you don't have to be a expert. You don't have to be a doctor or a physio or anyone like that to be able to do something like this. Okay. And now into that arch. I like to roll this foot inwards so that I can get into the inner arch. If I was to roll on this at all with this, it would probably be this part of my foot. So I'd roll from my towards my heel, the arch, and then towards the base of the big toe, and I would keep just really, really slowly, not rushing it. Remember we said that it wasn't about friction. It was more about the slowness. And what we've been doing, just in terms of terminology, is working through a technique called compression. Okay, so this is called rolling. And then go into the arch, so the weight pressing down and not creating any kind of movement at all. And this is called compression. Not that you need to know this. Doesn't make any difference to the outcome at all. But I guess we do know what compression means, pushing inwards. So it's not compression and friction. let's roll down towards the heel. So what I often see with people who do come to me and say, oh yeah, I roll out my feet or I roll out my hip or down the side here, is usually done on, say, a roller, or say if it's feet, they've been told to do it because they've got plantar fasciitis. So if you ever hear a word, someone says, oh, I've got something like cellulitis or plantar fasciitis. Itis means inflammation, I-T-I-S, inflammation. It's Latin for inflammation. So plantar fasciitis means plant. Plantar means this action, planting your foot, to plant my foot. Fascia is the fascia and itis, so inflammation of the fascia on the foot, yeah, down to your heel. And so often they are told, go get a golf ball or cricket ball. I've heard of recent, put a water bottle full of water, freeze it and roll over it. The only reason why they've said, the reason for that is there's school's not out, depending on the type of response that your body has. Some people respond to cold or ice for inflammation. Other people respond to heat. And sometimes they will play around between the two. So the reason for the ice bottle would be to try and cool or calm down the inflammation. It'd be okay if you just compress on it, but I wouldn't be rolling it up and down. All right, so then go put that foot onto the floor. Let's see how we feel. So that one probably feels a little more sprawled out maybe than the other one, just because we've just done it. But you probably now feel this sensation like this foot's just gone like jelly that hasn't set. You know, like if you take the mold off and all of a sudden it just goes out there like that. You feel like there's this, like my feet are really wide, which is a lovely sensation. And if you've been in shoes all day, I know I have. There's this beautiful feeling that, oh, my feet don't feel like they're being tight or held up. They probably didn't feel like that when we first started, but amazing how they obviously were, because they don't feel like that now. Okay, come with me as we head down towards the mat. So then what I tend to do is the technique that I work with usually requires us to go into what I call a reset mode, which is very much like the in practice, how we give ourselves a chance just to feel it all happen. We won't do that after the feet, but we'll give ourselves that after after we've gone into the calves. Let's take a block for this one, or any kind of elevation that you might have, and you just need your one ball. So I'm going to put the ball here into the meaty, the roundy, fleshy part of my calf. I'm going to pop it also then onto the ball, so you can see how my leg has gone into a little bit of elevation. So pretty much my leg is sort of hanging out there, and it's balancing on the ball. Okay. Some people might go, oh man, that's already like, whew, that's pretty there, it's pretty in your face. And if that's the case for you, and you're super happy to leave it at that, stay there with that. Okay. If you'd like to explore that a little bit more, you could perhaps even just pop your hands here and weight it down, because you can see that as we add some more weight to it, that's making it a little bit more obvious. Now, it's no different to any other kind of yoga practice, where we've got to also be a little bit mindful of our breathing. Inevitably, when we pop ourselves into these poses, we start to like go, this is really hurting, so I'm going to hold my breath. And we all know that if we work through the breath and we take those nice, long, slow, steady breaths, then this will start to settle down and it will start to ease up. Good. Let me give you a few other little tips and tricks that go with this one. I talked about plantar fasciitis. Plantar, plant your foot, toes go down. So that's called plantar. And there's another technique, dorsey. So we've got plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, going back the other way. So plant your foot down, like you're going to point your toes, yeah, and then go into dorsiflexion, pull your foot back. Do it a few times, take your time. And can you notice what happens when you flex and when you extend? So this is called flexing, pointing down, and extending, arching back. I don't know how that feels for you, but my calves, then they don't ever feel tight. So I can't say, oh, my calves are really tight. But when I do something like this, I definitely notice that there is some tightness to it. I don't particularly like my calves being massaged. They may just, it's not pleasant for me. Now, if you've got tightish leggings on, like I'm looking at my leg, I can see what's happening to my calf as I flex it back. My calf pulls in and gets really short. Okay, so it's tight now. And then when I go to point my foot, my calf spreads out. Okay, so it's relaxed here, yeah? And it's tightened here. Let it relax. So we were contracting the muscle and relaxing the muscle, and it was, you know, working through different aspects of the layers of the muscle. We can also, so we've done point and flex, but we can also do like a left and a right action. So put it into neutral, okay? So neutral is not pointing and not necessarily flexing back, okay? So we, you know, it's comfy there. Then turn the leg, like rotate the leg like a windscreen wiper, left and right. So now you can see that we're actually sort of rolling over side to side. So different, depending on how the muscle sits in the body, it will obviously, we can look at the layers of the fibers, okay, muscle fibers that run up and down the muscle. This technique is what we would call cross fibering, because the muscle fibers will be running down the leg like this, and we're going across the fibers. Yeah. So this is cross fibering. So at the moment we sort of stay with the same part of the calf. If, and I should have mentioned this to you before, if you're on a part of, I'm thinking, nothing's going on here, this is just like walk in the park for me, then move your ball and head up another part of the calf, yeah? Head to up or down, I should say, up or down to another part of the calf. Cross fibering. All right. Just do one more left and right. Oh, nice. All right. So we've gone this way, across the fibers. Now we get to go with the fibers. Okay. This means us going up and down. Up and down. So the technique that we call this is called shearing. S-H-E-A-R, like an earring, shearing. So you can see that they're not big movements, they're very subtle. but at the same time very, very effective. Okay, let's just do one more. Up and down. All right. Oh, all right. From here, lift the leg up. Let it have a little rest. See if you can assess any variation between left and right. Again, doesn't matter if there is anything or isn't. Good. All right, let's find ourselves over onto that other leg. Give it that got a little chance to. So again, back into our little meaty, fleshy part. And let's just do some compression. I must admit, I do like to start it off, what will I say, fairly simply, in that it's nice to let the muscles just adapt, give them a chance to adapt. And then upon adaptation, and like it's almost like acceptance, is there any opportunity to weight it down? Again, don't worry if there is anything you want. Not, hope in hell. That's okay. But these are really great to do if you're on your feet a lot. I know a lot of people are also very desk driven, but people do stand-up desks. It still puts a lot of load in their feet. So if you do that, then you might think at the end of the day, oh, my feet are actually a little bit tight from standing up all day. I know Miss Luba's on her feet all day in her job. But even if you're like people that are hairdressers, people that work in retail, and they're on their feet quite a lot. Or even if you just do a lot of exercise, you run a lot, calves get. Or we're coming into sporting season. Some people might be playing netball or soccer, and when things are really foot driven. So it's interesting, like if you can feel anything else that goes on here when you start to release it. I'll be interested to see if it does anything to my left hip. Be interested to know. Not that it's sore, but I know it's a little bit tight, particularly because we've been doing heaps of driving today. We did even more driving, so it gets really tight. All right, let's try that little plantar dorsiflexion. Back and forward. What you will notice with this, where you can pull out of this pose by sitting here like you're watching telly. Just like, yeah, this is easy peasy. Notice the difference when you come up and you sit directly on it, or even if you put a slight bend into the leg, so it's not locked out, but there's a slight bend in the knee. And that's because we're putting our weight forward into it as opposed to pulling back away from it. So we do want to make sure that we are, shall we say, posturally correct in it as well. Alrighty, let's see how we go. In a neutral place. That left foot, right foot. See, that's tougher for me. I don't know about you. remember, if you get to somewhere you think, you know what, there's not a lot going on here, then move your ball. Or if the ball moves itself, yeah. You can also tell that it's the kind of movement that you really don't want to rush anyway. You really don't want to rush. Actually, I was just thinking who else would benefit from this kind of thing. I was just thinking of someone like Marissa, who is a massage therapist. Again, they're on their feet all day. Nurses are on their feet all day. I know there's a few of the girls that are in nursing, or even you're in physio, or a few of the girls I know are in radiology and things like that, where they might have to stand up. And so this is really, even just those people who work on floor surfaces that are not sort of supportive, that they're like more concrete kind of floors, concrete and lino, or concrete and, or even just tiled floors. They're not very forgiving. Right, let's do that little shear up and down. I always do this, and I pray that at the end of it that this calf feels better, or that it doesn't feel good, but it's not the most pleasant experience for me. Nice and slow is the breathing. There's little parts of this, like even if you find a little spot, and I call it the sweet spot, like it's not beautiful, it's not like, oh, I can sit here all day, but there's a little spot there for me where I go, that is really quite intense. Not that bad that I'm going to cry, but it's not a Goldilocks moment. But I just sit here and go, you know what, if I sit on this and I breathe through this little sweet spot, will it release? Get myself in there. See how that goes. Both legs down. Alrighty. Okay. Hopefully they feel a little bit better. This next one is for the shin. Now these can get really tight, and if you do a bit of exercise, or you've ever had, and sometimes you don't even have to do a lot of exercise, or you've ever experienced this, like a burning sensation coming up the shin, sometimes we'll call it shin splints. I'll tell you what that really means. This can give you some relief, but it can also be quite beneficial in prevention. You take the ball in your hand, you place it, so you can see I've turned my leg inwards. So I've got funny leggings. These seams don't always go perfectly down the midline, the lateral line, sorry, of the leg, but I'm sort of got my little thing here, and I'm just gonna follow it, but I'm gonna roll down through here and see if I can find any little spots. So I'm gonna actually might even go, maybe if I can go a little bit closer to my actually I might bring it this way. Let's see if that's, yes, that's a bit better. I'm gonna tuck my little leg in because I can get more control here. Okay, let's see if I can go up this shin, and you can see I'm gonna do these little circular movements. Okay, you might see my hands just doing this. So I'm gonna go from there and see if there's anywhere on this shin And I'm probably, so as I get up a little bit meatier, I can start to feel more. I'll be honest in saying that it's like the, what's that word? Just because you can't, you're not getting that like, it's going to take my breath away feeling or sensation, doesn't mean that it isn't doing anything. Okay, so remember that you don't have to, a perfect example is you don't have to be breathless and sweating profusely and red in the face to get value out of some form of exercise. You know, you can elevate your heart rate without having to feel like you're going to lose your breath or feel terribly unwell or unpleasant. Okay, so same thing here. Sometimes we work on that principle of less is actually more. Similar example of, you don't have to go to the massage therapist and they don't have to dig their elbow into you. Often it's the acknowledgement of touch, because the muscles will just respond to sensation, to touch. We know that because they respond to compression. The compression doesn't have to be super hard. All right, so we've worked our way up and down that lateral side of the leg. Flip that leg on the other way, the other side. And what we do from here is we do this, it's called plowing, this technique. So we go onto the muscle. I'm on the inside of my leg, this inner leg line here. I was on the outer side before, so I'm on the inside leg line, yep. And I'm gonna plow. Can you see I'm actually going down to the calf? So I'm starting at my shin bone and I'm rolling the ball, or roll the ball down. So from here, rolling the ball down into the back of the calf, pushing the ball in, rolling the ball down and into the calf. Okay. Plowing in and down. So then you'll see the muscle will pop, I just saw that my muscle will pop back up. So I'm rolling it down and I'm tucking in, I'm getting underneath it, and I'm releasing through there. So I'm going down. You don't have to press super hard. And then as I come over the top of it, I've tucked underneath the muscle and then it's popped back up. Yep. Roll over. And then I should plow out. Yeah. What I want to do for us as well. Okay, let's go one more from top to bottom. Is right down low into the Achilles, because this calf, where it tends to get tight the most is the attachment of where the calf muscle attaches to the Achilles tendon. Oh, there's a spot there. We're getting there. And then I want you to think about one little spot on this calf that you thought, it was really quite strong there. And then what I'm going to get you to do is find wherever that little spot is, and I know exactly where it is because it's just tender now because I've gone over it. I'm going to push the ball in. I'll show you on my arm. I'm going to push the ball in, and then I'm going to turn it like a knob. I'm going to turn the tap on, pressing in, turn the tap on, press it, and turn the tap on. Okay, so I'm going to press into it, and then I knead it, and then I release it. And I'm going to push it back into there and turn the knob, and I'm kneading it into it, turn it, 2 more. Press in for compression. Knead it, turn it, and release. And here's the last one. Turn the knob and release the compression. Leg gets to go out. It can rest whilst we do this guy here. All right. 2 hands. Down the lateral side, that outside of the leg. Compression and going down. Pressing down. And again, don't negate the fact that you might be rolling down the lateral side of the leg and thinking, there's not much happening here. Don't dismiss it, because, as I said, 1, less is more. Just because you feel it doesn't mean anything's not happening. Okay, start again. So it's going to compress and go down, or compress and roll. Yeah, you think to yourself, oh wow, child's pose, love child's pose, such an easy pose, you know, like, and then if you think about it, what's it really doing? Is it really doing anything? Well, yes, it is doing a lot. Just because it's not killing me, just because it's not a hard pose, doesn't mean that it's not. It doesn't have any therapeutics to it. One thing roll and release teaches us is a little bit of patience, doesn't it? Because we can't rush it. Alright, let's swing it in the other way. On the inside, remember the plough we pushed down, we rolled it in towards us, and then we see the muscle sort of flip back up. So in. The nice thing about when you do roll and release is that for the want of a better word, it forces you to be slow and diligent about this, in this instance, the lower half of the leg. Normally you might just do, oh, I'll do the foot and do maybe, I don't know, will I do a calf release? Maybe not. One more down. This is also really good for people who might tell me that they get cramps in their legs at night. What cramps most? Calves. People say, oh my God, I wake up in the middle of the night, my calves cramp. Or even sometimes in yoga practice, like in the studio, people would say to me, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got this cramp, you know, they'll get up and I'll have to walk around, you know, and tap their foot and all the rest of it. This is really good for those people who, yeah. You know what also it's really good for? Is that circulation, improving circulation in your legs. So for example, if you had poor circulation in the legs, which would also come from poor circulation in the feet. So that fascial release, if you have cold feet and you suffer from poor circulation in the feet, or you see your feet really whitish in colour as opposed to a nice light pink in colour, and you need to improve circulation, this is really good for it. Also, even things like, obviously you'd be very delicate over them, particularly if they were sensitive, but things like varicose veins. A lot of people do have varicose veins. This would be a good technique to use gently to get a nice blood flow. All right, let's do the little pivot where we push in and we knead it. Turn that doorknob in and knead. In. And all of us have, we'll do two more up and down. What will I say? What's the word? Have less blood flow, shall I say, to the legs than they do other parts of the body. For example, blood flow to the legs is a little slower than, say, to the quadriceps. It's called the thighs, as opposed to and also the belly, because anything that's close to the heart, that blood flow comes into that quite easily. Okay, not far to go. But you think of the flow that the blood has to have from your feet all the way up through your veins and arteries into your heart, much slower. That's why people will often have cold feet, because their blood flow from feet to heart much slower, as opposed to, say, your abdomen, your thighs. All right, so do we have one little spot that we might want to address? I know I do. So there's one last little one I want us to do. This is where we will need both of our balls. Remember, you don't have to use these roll and release balls, these yoga tune-up balls. You could use one of the rubbery styles of balls that they have. The kids like bouncy balls that are rubber. They've got a little bit of firmness to them. Alright. So from here, the last one I want us to do is by taking those two balls, and because we've done most of this fleshy part, sorry for my backside, but we've done most of the fleshy part. We're going to take it right down towards down the bottom here. So that, what I would call that teardrop, and we pop them in there. Now, the more upright we are, bring your legs together, the more upright we are, the more that we put load into it. Remember, I was saying before, lounging around, not much going on here. Come on up a little bit more. Find that sweet spot. Do you have one? I'm going to go down towards my Achilles, so down towards that little teardrop part, because I know that can get a little bit tight. What I want to do here is I can go into compression. So I can press down onto them, so I can come upright. And I'm going to give my guys a little wriggle. So I'm going to cross fibre. So I'm just going to move my hips from left to right. And I'm going to go over the edges of them. And then you guys can tick off the lower half of the leg. So we'll go back to Wednesday next week. It was only that yesterday we were driving all the way from Rutherglen back home here to Denny. And it was a little bit of a slower trip than we thought it would be. It was like 2 and a bit hours back across. So, we're back on. I'm home next week. I'm home on Tuesday. Probably Tuesday out back. No, late Tuesday afternoon. I will be. 'Cause I know that can get a little bit tight. What I want to do here is I can go into compression. So I'm just going to move my hips from left to right. And I'm going to go over the edges of them. And then you guys can tick off the lower half of the leg. back up. Oh, let's give ourselves a little leg out front. Whew. They feel a little bit better. We can lounge here. We're allowed to lounge here. And just feel, even if you get things like pins and needles in your feet, any of these leg ones that we just did, a great benefit. Again, in getting some blood flow and stimulating some what we call chi, some energy, some vital prana energy into the legs. Good. Alrighty, so there you go. Legs, lower legs are ticked off. We didn't get to quads and hammies. That's okay. We've got plenty of time for that. So Wednesday next week we'll do quads and hamstrings. I think we might even get up into, or we definitely will get to glutes, because we'll do some sitting onto the glutes and hamstrings. And I reckon we'll get a little bit of lateral ITBs, some of these little bands that go down the sides of the legs here. This is where there'll be a little bit more ouchy, more ouch factor. But yeah, be interested to see how the other parts of your body have responded just by doing the feet and the calves tonight. Be interesting to see if it's affected things like the hips, or even literally this lower half of the body. So thank you for joining me tonight. It's very interesting for us now, isn't it, to see how dark it is compared to this time last week. So take care, have a beautiful evening. I will catch up with you a little later on. I don't know whether or not I'll get on, I won't be on tomorrow morning because we're in transit. We've got an 8-hour or more drive across to the coast. But I will definitely speak to you and see you as soon as I can get back into reception. So take care, everyone. Stay safe, and I will see you super soon.